Hello and welcome to the Battle of Central Europe Season 3 here in the lower bracket. This is going to be a best of 3 between Lions and Album Sheet, with the loser going home and the winner continue on the tournament. I'd have to check the bracket to see who they're actually playing. That said, I'm Grandis V. I'll be joined again by Mike Loris for this series, and well, we just came off of quite surprising, at least for me, 2-0 series coming out from Denial. A very dominating performance, and especially that ending to Game 2, very unexpected.
Oh man, that was truly some game. Winner goes on to face the Vega Squadron, so that should be a tough matchup for both these sides. Vega Squadron, no slouches, but for right now, I would say these two teams are pretty evenly matched. Lions have been very recently underestimated consistently, but they've been performing well since their roster shuffle. Album Sheet also shuffling their roster as well. Haven't really been seeing that much of them, at least not enough to know how strong they are. They've been doing okay lately, I think, so there should be a pretty even matchup here, and so far looking at the draft, quite a few powerful heroes left in, with the Visage being banned out very early on. It seems like Album Sheet are respecting the possibility for that huge damage combo, and Lion's gonna first pick Dazzle Razor. That's pretty interesting.
It is. A lot of minus armor synergy between them, with the Weave as well as the Eye of the Storm. But definitely not the traditional way of opening up the draft, especially with powerhouses like the Ogre Giant left inside the pool, and offlaners completely ignored. Centaur, Tide Bat are all available, and heroes that these teams both like playing. Although usually it looks pretty sketchy to start a draft with Dazzle and Razor. For Lions, especially with these new Coast players, they like playing incredibly aggressively, and I think this does
10 seconds to go.
fit into their comfort zone, whereas Album Sheet just get meta and very standard
5
heroes.
seconds.
And not saying like that's a bad thing or anything, but typically you want to be rooting for the team that picks up the axe the most often. And from what I've seen of Lions so far, they have no qualms about picking up that hero. So I'm all about that. If it is going to be the case, that'll be awesome to see, but it doesn't exactly have to be. Right now, they actually have some pretty good physical damage, so maybe they do want to go into a minus armor sub-theme. Elder Titan would be a nice pickup to fit into that. Also get a Templar Assassin, possibly. Maybe not TA up against Viper, but heroes like that could make Lions do a hell of a lot of damage. Seems like Album Sheet, they're going to be afraid of the pressure that Lions could put on early, banning out the Venomancer and the Jakiro, whereas Lions are going to take out the Scarith Mage Slark.
I am feeling the axe for Lions here. They pick up the Dazzle, and they do have first pick in the second picking stage, but instead, they go for the Ancient Apparition. Another support that does lend itself to aggressive styles of play very easily, so maybe they are going to back away from this minus armor theme and just keep it at the Weave as well as the Eye of the Storm, which usually is enough in and of itself. Ancient Apparition, Razor, Dazzle could very well be our tri-lane, and it's a pretty good one in abusing Chilling Touch.
Yeah, that's a lot of extra damage that you're going to get with 3 ranged heroes, not to mention Razor, who also does quite a bit of damage. So Lions have a nice start off of which they can continue on with the rest of their draft. There's going to be no healing, no Necrophos or anything like that from Album Sheet, or at least there shouldn't be moving forward. But for them, they have the Ogre Magi Viper. They're going to pick up a pretty early Zeus. I think this is okay. Lions are going to be fairly vulnerable to that lightning. If they have, heroes like Dazzle on their team, they will be able to sustain themselves over the long haul. But if you just find someone, you could very quickly burst them down before Dazzle has any sort of reaction.
As for Album Sheet's next choice, Elder Titan is in the pool and would be pretty decent for them, but if they run it as a support, would give them a double melee support, which isn't that great, and could get their lanes a little bit crowded, but just the synergy he has with Zeus, and the amount of damage that the other two heroes can put out for that matter is probably worth sacrificing a little bit of your laning potential. Lions are going to go for the Faceless Void.
A solid pickup for Lions for sure. They don't really have the most damage to put into the Chronosphere. We saw how much that mattered in the last game. Probably didn't matter too much, although it is always nicer to have Mystic Flares and Death Wards from your supports. Ancient Apparition has Ice Blast, which I guess is guaranteed to land in the Chronosphere, but it's certainly not as impressive as some other skills that they could be picking up. Between Ancient Apparition and Dazzle, they have a decent amount of lane control because they're both ranged, but as far as mid-game damage is concerned, it will be rather lacking, or at least on the low end. Ancient Apparition has Chilling Touch, but that is pretty much all he has, and Dazzle doesn't really have anything until much later on.
Yeah, for sure. Album Sheet, they don't seem that they're going to pick up the Elder Titan here. If they were, it probably would have been a little bit faster for them to snag up. Still, I think Tidehunter is a solid choice, although teams every once in a while do completely ignore the hero. As far as their lanes are concerned, it looks like it's just going to be a safe lane Viper mid Zeus. And then they are going to be looking to fill that off-lane slot. If they want a more precision initiation, they could go for the Batrider, but jumping a Batrider with the, or jumping a Razor with a Batrider is always very problematic. That passive just does a number onto the Bat, as you can't really lasso him and move anywhere unless you have a Force Staff, and even then.
Oh, you know what? I actually did see Album Sheet play recently, and Bignum was playing a really broken Ogre Magi. He had like 70% multicast or something like that, but also they ran the Zeus support. I think that was Album Sheet. So I think that is actually what they're going to be going for. I could just be completely wrong. That is possible. But as far as Zeus support is concerned, that would open up the lanes a little bit more. They have a lot more flexibility there, and it's going to be the Storm Spirit. So it's probably not going to be a Zeus core, just with the Zeus, Storm Spirit, Viper all usually taking the mid lane. It's workable for sure, but yeah, I do think this is going to be a Zeus support for Album Sheet.
Yeah, after the Storm, I'm tending to agree with you. It does feel like it.
Radiant's ban.
Yeah, Broodmother last ban coming out from Lajons would have been pretty annoying for them to deal with, as their wave clear is very limited. Plasma Field's pretty much the only way that they could deal with those Spiderlings, and that's not enough, especially if their last pick they're considering doesn't really fit that bill. Lajons, they're probably going to be picking up a farming hero for either mid or safe lane, throwing that Faceless Void towards the off. Invoker looks pretty good for the global ganking potential with Sunstrike, as well as the Ancient Apparition Ice Blast, but they could have something else in mind entirely.
You know, Invoker actually won't be terrible on either side. Like, the offlane situation for both teams doesn't look like it's going to be the strongest, with two very powerful offlane heroes being banned out. Broodmother tied, getting the kick out. Centaur still available, but I don't really know if Lions want to go for a Centaur with this particular draft. They generally want someone with a little more damage to be put into the Chronosphere, and Centaur, though nice, is not really going to be it. They need someone with as much disable as they could possibly find, because Storm Spirit has, well, Storm Spirit is Storm Spirit, and Lions, it's going to be the Puck. So I think that's reasonable. Blink into Silence with Chronosphere backup. Not the most damage to put into a Chronosphere, but as far as shutting down Storm Spirit and shutting down Zeus and Ogre Magi, Puck is a pretty good one.
It definitely is. Just offering them more control in the team fights, and that's never really a bad thing. They have plenty of ways to initiate onto Album Sheet, and make them not super comfortable just sitting back and looking for jumps with the Storm Spirit more than anything else. For Album Sheet, they have already banned out that Centaur, and or the Tidehunter, excuse me. The Centaur is available if they want to go for it. Honestly, I'm not so sure what the plan is for Album Sheet. Zeus support's not something we see very often. It kind of functions like a worse Skywrath Mage, just an all-damage support, except for this one doesn't have very much control at all. Can't cancel TPs with the Thunderbolt, and gives some vision with the ultimate, but that's about it.
Maybe it'll help them burst down the Puck. They don't really have that many disables. They're going to need a Orchid if they want to reliably kill out the Faceless Void and the Puck, and until they pick up a Doom, in which case they will have a lot of disable in order to deal with the Puck and Faceless Void. Dooming them is probably the best thing you could possibly do, and then you have time to move in the Ogre Magi and the Zeus, and then suddenly Album Sheet, they have a pretty well-crafted lineup. The Zeus, as support, is always a little bit of an X factor. Sometimes he doesn't do anything. Sometimes he carries the early game really hard. But Zeus has been played by Album Sheet for the past couple of games, now that I recall correctly, and he's been doing pretty decently. He always starts off really well and gets, 30-minute maximum Aghanim Scepter, or like 25-minute maximum Aghanim Scepter on a support. So a Thunder God's Wrath could certainly put a lot of hurt onto Lions. Though they do have some sustain from the Dazzle, it's going to be pretty crushing in the team fights.
Yeah, there is some questions about the lineup that Album Sheet are running with, and whether or not it's the actual Album Sheet. This is at least the lineup that they've been playing with in the Battle of Central Europe, and the one that I've seen most often, even in the JDL games. They have been in sort of a state of flux. Then again, so have Lions. As for the Radiant side, it's going to be Bignum playing on that Zeus, starting out with Boots first. Inquisitor going to be our other support. Ogre Magi buying the Wards and Courier, or presumably the Courier. Chomi is going to be playing the Viper, Undershock on the Storm Spirit, leaving last but not least Aftershock on the Doom.
And for the Lions side, it's going to be Hanskin handling the Ancient Apparition support along with Seal Kid on the Dazzle. Jonas and Fan is going to be taking the Puck most likely towards the off lane with Ira, farming up the Faceless Void. 8 Mother is going to be playing that Razor, assuming going towards the mid lane. And as far as the lanes are concerned, I don't think either team is going to have a huge advantage. Lions with only one melee hero are going to have consistent lanes and, lanes with a lot of poking, but Doom on the top lane is probably just going to be the weakest one. It's not uncommon to see Dooms in off lanes just get completely shut down.
It definitely isn't. This Doom is more or less going to function as a jungle Doom, and I was considering some laning options for Album Sheet where they could throw some heroes towards this offlane and just start Doom out in the jungle entirely, maybe to get a little bit more farm onto this Zeus, but there just doesn't seem to be a clear way that they're actually going to be able to contest this safe lane farm coming out from Lajons. So Era should be able to get quite a lot out of this Faceless Void. Even though we haven't seen it yet, a Midas on the Void this game could work out for them, depending on when he's actually able to pick that one up.
Wow, I just realized that Bignum saw the Observer Ward down towards bottom that Jonathan fan placed, used Lightning Bolt in order to give that true sight, and then they quickly brought it down. That's like a kind of a side part of Zeus. Like, you do take him for the damage. I don't think anyone is going to disagree with that, but the fact that is a support hero who could deward without having to buy sentries is actually pretty huge. That's, you know, several iterations of 200 gold that you don't have to be spending, and as long as you have enough damage to kill off a ward, it's a pretty cheap way of doing it as well. 75 mana for 50 gold is pretty nice.
It definitely is. Album Sheet, they also get their ward denied, so both offlaners are going to be going into it blind, but as far as their ability to actually escape the enemy team, Doom is going to have a harder time than the Puck. Scorched Earth is a nice spell, but not as nice as having the Illusion Orb as well as the Phase Shift. At level 1, however, there is some killing potential onto Jonas Sunfan if they're able to force out the orb in some form or fashion, or if he just isn't able to get off that jaunt, cancelled by like a Fire Blast coming out from the Ogre Magi.
Unfortunately for level 1 Ogre Magi, though he does have probably the best rune in order to be aggressive early on, it's not going to matter because they don't have any disable here. Unless Undershot gets really close, even if he does, it's only going to be for a remnant. It's going to be Jonas Fan taking a little bit of chip, but it's a lot more than chip up towards top, where Afterlife is near death already. With a Chilling Touch, he will be going down. Poison Touch plus Time Walk slow, and then Chilling Touch damage, and Afterlife is probably going to have to take a trip to the jungle. He cannot stay up here and be safe.
Absolutely not. Going up to this top lane proves to hurt more than it helps for the Faceless Void, or for the Doom, and benefiting very heavily Lajons is they're able to get that extra bit of gold for their team, and it is going to be a completely conceded lane. Dazzle as well as Ancient Apparition, although in lane, if they have any other setup from that third cog inside the wheel, can do a lot of damage with just the Poison Touch and the Chilling Touch. But as far as roaming supports, they're not going to be able to accomplish much, if anything. It looks like they're just going to be able to run pulls 24/7, since the Doom is completely jungling now, and he finds himself Mud Golems.
They could stack up a little bit. They don't have the best clearers for giant stacks, but with Razor with Plasma Field, Era may be going for a Battle Fury. Puck could even clear off stacks. It'll take him a little bit longer, but it's still worthwhile for those two supports, as they're not really doing anything in this lane. They should know at this point that Afterlife is just completely AWOL, and well, they'll be fine with that. It's free experience, free space for the supports, and the odds of them actually killing off Afterlife is very slim. If they were right on top of the Doom right now, they actually probably could kill him off, but going into the jungle like that is so incredibly risky, and they're definitely not going to be doing that. So top lane definitely won by the Lion side. Looking towards mid, 9-1 on the Razor, 7-1 for the Viper. Relatively even in that regard. Both of those heroes should be running with bottles, although it's going to be no bottle. It's a Ape to be delivering regeneration to Ape Mother, and it looks like no bottle for the Razor. There is no bottle on the Viper either, so that's actually pretty weird to see no bottles in the mid lane.
The courier's name is Aparini. Wonderful. Okay. Either way.
Oh, it's owned by Seal Kid. That's just weird.
That's disappointing. Yeah, Chomi is going to be going for what seems to be phase boost, picking up the Blades of Attack. It's going to help him out in this lane. As far as matchups that Viper can lose, Razor is one of the ones that he needs to be most careful about. And going for these phase boots, it's going to ensure that he has a damage advantage over the Razor. One of the most, if not the most, efficient item you can pick up for this point in the game.
And it's not even like he's deviating that much. Viper with Treads or Phase are both perfectly functional, and he is able to go for a little bit more of an aggressive build in this game. Right, going up against a Razor, there's not that much magic damage that's going to be flowing his way, especially since, well, Chomi doesn't know it yet, but Razor does not have Plasma Field at all, so Chomi is going to be going for the correct build versus 8 Mother, and 8 Mother is going for, you know, probably the correct build versus Chomi, realizing, hey, he's probably going to have the Corrosive Skin, I'm not going to waste my time with Plasma Field. But this is going to be, I believe, slightly favored to Chomi in the long run, as if he's able to keep out of distance of 8 Mother, then Static Link is going to be irrelevant. But Poison Attack and Nether Toxin is going to be hitting 8 Mother really hard. It's not going to be too much of a lead in either direction, though.
Yeah. As far as the offlaners are concerned, Jonas Sunfan also not having a very good time, and in fact leveling worse than the Doom since he can actually back off into the jungle. Puck doesn't have that luxury, and has been zoned out pretty effectively by these two supports. If he ever comes up to the creep wave like he is now, Inquisitor can look in for a couple of smacks, and Zeus, a Thunderbolt, if he's actually there, is an incredibly mana-efficient way to zone out offlaners.
And Puck is still not in any trouble of dying just yet until someone else comes in. Once Doom gets his ultimate, then certainly kills are on the table. But until then, killing off Puck is going to be a little bit difficult for Album Sheet. For right now, it's just going to be 8 Mother zoning out Chomi, and well, that's the price that you pay of going up against a Razor. 70 damage swing, and there are no heroes that could actually withstand that. So Viper, now that he has his phase boots, is going to keep himself a little bit more safe. But Razor, he is actually moving pretty quickly as well, so he will be able to, for the most part, keep up with the Viper, at the very least to force him out of lane for the static blink duration, which is pretty darn annoying. Razor's going to be happy with that, but still Viper shouldn't be shut down completely, and it's going to be a very passive laning stage. Aside from that first blood on the Doom shouldn't be dying again unless he dies to neutrals, but who cares about that? That's fine.
Yeah, and even if he does, as long as he buys out beforehand, he'll also be pretty okay with that. Under tower, 8 Mother's going to eat quite a lot of damage from Chomi as he looks for a slight dive. There's a regen picked up by the Dazzle, but killing off this Viper isn't really all that possible for a solo Dazzle. However, with the Puck coming in, maybe, but he's going to get Fire Blasted up as well as Ignited. Jonas Sunfan is going to be able to jaunt towards his orb, but it's not to the low ground. He's going to be bashed down by Ogre Magi, and then the Thunderbolt coming in will secure his death. So that's going to be a kill going the way of Album Sheet, tying up our kill score 1-1.
Now, I don't know what you saw, but it looked like that orb was actually on the low ground. He probably, like, pressed the button when the orb was, like, right over the cliff, so it looked like it was on the low ground, and from his camera angle, it looked like it was over, but yeah, if I was Puck, I would be pretty upset about that. The orb looked like it was on the low ground, and if he did get down there, then he would have been just fine, but instead, being caught out by a couple of supports ends up feeding his life away.
Yeah, and that's not great. Right now, Jonas Fan is having a worse time than the Doom, since Doom is able to constantly get that gold coming up from Devour and has a way back into this game, whereas Puck isn't going to be so lucky. When he dies, his gold is not only lost, but he's presumably going to be saving up for a blink, and mid 8 Mother is going to be dropping low, but with a couple of heals coming out from the Dazzler, he's going to be just fine, and Steel Kid should be able to pick up experience in mid. Faceless Void left in 1v0 lanes, going to have that 5-minute minus running, pretty much as prescribed. Not much of the Doom could do. In fact, showing his face in lane, time walk forward, he might be in a little bit of trouble. Scorched Earth is pretty good, but is it that good? It will keep him safe under tower, but yeah, Doom coming into this lane really isn't an option.
You're getting a little bit unlucky there. If he had a single bash, that would have been a kill, but Afterlife, he put himself at a quite high amount of risk in order to get a Devour, which he could have eaten anything else, and now he's actually in a lot more trouble. He's going to be spotted by a Vortex. Here comes a random Dazzle from the trees. Afterlife is completely stuck. He has nowhere to go. He can't even chop his way through. He will be dropping on the top lane. Don't really know why Doom decided to rejoin this top lane, but it definitely wasn't a good idea. That's now a 2-for-1 in favor of Lajons. Jonas Fan dueling with Bignum. Because of the DD on the Puck, Bignum will lose that fight. Here comes the Ogre Magi. Ignite will be lethal, and Puck is going to burn. I think that's an okay trade for the Album Sheet side. The Zeus was kind of in a sticky situation as soon as the Puck grabbed the DD. There was no running away from that, so he might as well just fight to the death.
Yeah, it's not bad for either side. I think we can pretty much call that a wash. The support gave quite a bit of levels the way of the Zeus, but then again, the way of the Puck after dying on the Zeus, but then again, Ogre Magi picks up some levels for himself after killing off the Puck. So I think it's more or less a wash, but they are going to be able to get the jump on the Seal. Okay, Graves only going to save him for a little bit longer. His Era does get the time walk down to low ground, but now that's going to be a double kill for Undershock. It's one attack into the Courier, but isn't able to clean it up. 2 clean kills for Album Sheet after a nice rotation from the Storm.
And that was just enough mana on the Storm Spirit in order to take that down. He was put himself in a perfect position to hit one and then get the other kill with the Static Remnant. Chomi over towards mid is in quite a bit of trouble, actually. 8 Mother has level 3 Plasma Field. Chomi's going to turn around for a Viper Strike. However, one more Whip Strike will kill him off. Doom is going to DC. Here comes Inquisitor. He has a Fire Blast. Tower aggro, I think, is on the Catapult. Although 8 Mother should have just issued an attack command. So the tower aggro should be on 8 Mother. He has half duration Viper Strike. I think 8 Mother is dead here, but I'm not completely sure.
Yeah, I think this should be a kill. At the very least, it's going to be close. There's no other support outside of Inquisitors, so let's see. Fire Blast, that's going to be doing 120 damage. Ignite going to be doing, on top of that, about 180 magic. After resistance, that's not going to be immediately enough, but should be able to give him the rundown. He also needs to be careful, however, since there's 112 fresh damage stolen by the Razor, so if he starts right-clicking the Ogre, could be in some trouble. There's your Fire Blast, and oh, the Tower aggro actually is going on 8 Mother, so that should be a kill. Although, does juke away from the Ignite? Does he actually find the vision for this? 8 Mother's able to juke down towards the south, ring around the Rosies, and 8 Mother looks to be just fine, at least for now. Zeus coming in, they're looking for the Ignite angle, but just can't find it. Thunderbolt Gonna give them a lick of vision, but not enough, and 8mother's actually able to walk out of there alive, mostly due to some nice pathing around the trees.
Yeah, the Ignite couldn't come out in time for the Ogre Magi. If that landed with the Zeus incoming, that for sure would have been a kill. Ink Visitor got fogged again right after he tried for that Ignite, so fortunate circumstances there, but it's going to be unfortunate down towards bottom where Jonas Fan is going to get jumped. He's going to get pulled. He is going to get enough time to jaunt to his orb Afterlife. Not yet at that level 6. Killing off a puck is going to be pretty difficult without that. And Undershock, he tries, but he just ends up using quite a bit of mana. But I think it's still nice to see the Storm Spirit actually try to make something happen. We saw it in the previous set where a Storm Spirit just sat back and didn't do anything. Undershock is clearly not going to replicate that.
Yeah, they are going to lose a tier 1 tower up in top. That's not to be unexpected. It is a 1v0 lane after all. And Ira is going to have his upgraded boots whenever he wants to pick them up after that Midas. And Faceless Void's farm is going to steadily progress throughout this game. As far as the early laning stage is concerned, it's slightly favored towards Lions in the gold department, mostly because of that tower destruction. Experience is almost dead even.
And that's fine for both sides. As far as late game potential, Lions have the Faceless Void and the Razor, both pretty large powerhouses in the late game, but the advantage of Storm Spirit cannot be understated. The initiation of Doom as well, in combination with that Storm, can completely nullify all your farm. If you get doomed as a Faceless Void, you're going to be pretty useless. If you get jumped upon by a Long Ball Lightning, you're dead as well. So late game is pretty even. I would say both drafts, they're going to have very minor differences, and it's mostly going to come down to execution as far as who is going to get the edge. Speaking of execution, Ira might drop here on top. Cold Feet going to force Undershock away, and Ira is going to get really roughed up, but he will survive. Zeus status, not quite yet at level 6. Even though I think if he actually might be able to if he gets into the next creep wave. No, it's too late.
Yeah. Ira, with no points to backtrack, I think that Storm could have killed off Ira before things got hairy. But then again, with Chronosphere on Ira, you also need to respect the power of that Faceless Void. So definitely can't understand that choice, but if this was a lower tier MMR, or Undershock was just feeling a little bit more YOLO, could have worked out in his favor.
Well, at any rate, it's still going to be the Faceless Void surviving. Undershock trying twice to get a couple of kills is going to be slowing down his farm, but they have someone farming on the bottom lane anyway. It's going to be Big Nim trying to get...
Is the stream working on your end?
Yes.
Okay, my preview's currently frozen, so I'm going to rely on you to notify me of stream issues. We've already had a little bit today, so hopefully there's no more.
I'm sure if you refresh it, it'll all be fine. Seems to be the problem there. Undershock, though, is going to get hit with the Chronosphere. They have Puck right outside for a Silence to follow up. He's going to coil Silence Undershock down as Puck orbs his way through. Support incoming from Ink Visitor a little bit too late, and they actually are also going to catch Afterlife with a little bit of damage drain from the Razor. Also as a haste rune, so no way that he could actually escape that if there was any follow-up, but there isn't. And it's just a kill on the Storm Spirit, who got jumped by the Faceless Void and getting a little bit of justice there, but it might not be the only casualty, as Bignum is also in a little bit of trouble. Will get a lot of damage dealt to him, but he will just barely TP away. 8mother having that remnants of that damage stolen by the Doom, and Zeus is pretty lucky to be alive.
He definitely is. Puck picking up a little bit of his farm slack in the mid lane as he's saving up towards that Blink Dagger. They're going to zip in, looking for the pullback. They'll find out Jonas Fan. Is the damage there? It'll be close, but not quite. Further zipped forward by the Storm Spirit. That's going to secure the end of Jonas Fan's life, as Undershock potentially going to be tagged by the Ancient Apparition Ice Boss, only going to hit onto Chomi. And for now, that's going to be the end of the aggression in mid.
Well, Undershock finally gets his kill, and this Storm Spirit is looking to be extremely active. Next time he decides to go for a kill, he will have some support in that Doom has his ultimate, and so does the Zeus. So if the Storm Spirit has any sort of help, he can very easily get these kills, and it looks like he's going to head up towards top lane, where Ink Visitor also has his multicast available. Let's see how skilled Ogre Magi is. Fire Blast, unfortunately not going to multi for him, but here comes the Storm Spirit. He's hiding around the corner, is spotted out right now, and something Ink Visitor has just got to run. He's going to be running, though, into a Puck, and that's never where you want to be running. A coil into an orb forward is going to be the name of the game. Ink Visitor turns around for a 2x multicast onto Jonas Fan, igniting Seal Kid as well as Jonas Fan with another multicast. He's still going to be going down, however, as there is no support there for the Ogre Magi. The Viper not even moving up there. Probably could have helped out, but it's just an Ogre Magi down.
Yeah, not the biggest of losses. Undershock does get bashed, but not bashed enough. Faceless Void. Chronosphere was still on cooldown for about 25 seconds at that time, so it couldn't have gone for much more. Chomi is finishing up the mechanism for his team, going to have that one very shortly, and does have the two major components. And we have a Doom Midas up as well for Aftershock, or Album Sheet, my goodness. The items are coming up, but a little bit slower than they would have liked, especially on the Storm Spirit. After looking for so many kills and not succeeding on all of them, his time might have been better spent down in bottom farming, but he has given room to this Zeus, who now has Tranquil Soul Ring.
And it should be an Aghanim Scepter next for this Zeus if previous games are any indication. Undershock is still not farming terribly. Like, he's second in place, or I guess third now in the net worth, right behind the Razor and Faceless Void. Though Faceless Void is by far farming the best on Lions. Album sheet, they're doing well enough on enough of their heroes, I think, to feel comfortable about the situation, and they're trying to kill off the Faceless Void. It's not like they're just sitting back and letting this Void free farm. They're smoked out now with Afterlife and Inquisitor, and they're going for an Ancient Apparition kill. I don't think they know that Handskin is here. With his positioning, I don't think the Ancient Apparition is going to be in much trouble, because the smoke will blow, and now he knows that he's in trouble. So Handskin just sitting back and getting experience is going to be just fine for now. Undershock also looking for blood down towards bottom lane, but there's no one in lane until the Puck joins this lane. Undershock is in the area, and with Big Dum's burst damage, this could be a kill into Jonas and Fam. There's 3 points in Electric Vortex, and Undershock, if he gets the ball lightning damage as well, then the Puck is just going to drop, especially with the ultimate from Zeus. Here comes the jump. There's a jaunt, and actually no jaunt just yet, just silence and phase shift. Forcing 2 TPs out, actually that's a pretty nice win for Album Sheet.
Yeah. It is going to cost him quite a bit of mana on Undershock, and he's going to go all the way back to base because of it. We'll probably farm a jungle camp or 2 before he makes it all the way back to base. But yeah, I think that's a pretty even trade, maybe slightly in the favor of Album Sheet. Still, I have a 401 error now whenever I tried to load the stream, so it's not great. If there's anything wrong, I have no idea.
Top lane Handskin is going to get doomed, multicasted as well, and he's going to die. It's still fine on my end. I'm going to refresh it and see if... yeah, it's taking a little bit to load, but I'll let you know in just a little bit. Seems to be loading just fine, so you messed up your internet or something. Seems like a bad day for Hitbox, but either way, it's a kill on the Ancient Apparition up towards the top lane. Easily done by the Album Sheet side. Lions, though, they're not going to sit back. They have the Faceless Void up on the high ground of the mid lane. And if they try to go for this, they're going to be overwhelmed by numbers. They know that the Viper was here. Inquisitor and Big Dumb also here, though. They're going to initiate onto Seal Kid. There's a Viper Strike. He does have a Shadow Grave and TP, but he will get multicast out of that. And with the Ignite, he will die. Big Dumb also going to lay some damage onto Seal Kid. He will now die. And 8 Mothers trying to chase forward for Big Dumb is going to get slowed down enough by Chomi in order to save that Zeus's life. Now another multicast. Inquisitor has been practicing his Ogre for sure. 8 Mother with another Plasma Field will not connect onto too many heroes. Chomi's completely out of mana, but 8 Mother doesn't really have anywhere to run. He's going to be chased down by Undershock, going to give Album Sheet another kill over on this mid lane, and they lose Doom up towards top in the process, but I think a 2-for-1 is certainly going to be worth it for them.
It is. That was Chronosphere spent by the Faceless Void to get off that, or to kill off that Doom, as well. It's still okay for Lions since the Void didn't fall, or really wasn't involved in that fight. After the fact, Razor, after getting a long link, really wanted to take that fight and just ends up overextending quite a bit. Up towards top, we have the Ogre farming in the face of the Ancient Apparition. Hey, needs to be careful, Handskin, if there's any backup, even though he doesn't know that there isn't, would probably have fallen if the Doomstorm or even the Zeus was there. And Zeus is always there in spirit, you can't run from heaven. We still have yet to really see the Thunder God's wrath be of any impact.
I'm sure it's going to happen soon enough. Storm Spirit is bottling up right now in the base, is going to be going for the Orchid. I don't think anyone should be too surprised about that in this particular game. And where he goes, most likely, it's going to be demanding a Zeus ultimate, especially if he goes towards Jonas and Fan down towards bottom. This Puck is already not too healthy. Last time, he barely slipped away. This time, he's going to see Undershot coming. He will not see this hasted Doom coming, though. And that could be really dangerous. Zip in, and he's going to get the silence, but Doom, not quite there in time, but the Doom will flow. And then now Puck is doomed to fall. He might be denied, he might be graved up, but it's going to be Seal Kid to take the aggro. Now he's going to be pulled back. There's a grave there. Thunder God's Wrath will kill off Jonas and Fan, will not be denied either. Seal Kid is going to die to the Zeus's lightning bolt. Here comes Ira with the Chronosphere. No Chronosphere just yet. Onto Big Dumb instead. He's going to get that kill anyway. That's still fine. That's still a 2-for-1 for Album Sheet as they disengage with the rest of their heroes. And it's going to just be that Ira. If he had a Chronosphere, that probably could have been 2 kills, but unfortunately cooldown's not working out for him. They're going to try to push down the bottom lane Lions. They might lose, or they might take a tier 1 tower in the mid lane, Album Sheet in response, but this should be a clean tower destruction for Lions.
It definitely should be. I don't think there's really much that Album Sheet can do, except for put as much pressure as they can on mid, which is what Chomi's doing, and put a little bit of pressure up top with the Ogre. Inquisitor is going to be fighting up against Jonas Sunfan, potentially trying to bait out that phase shift, but it's just not going to be in the cards for him. Continuously trying to throw away That fireball faces Void, and bottom dropped low, but he's going to be just fine as well. I think he was just tanking tower there. There wasn't really anybody close.
The Dire might want to.
Oh man, Ogre Magi almost just straight up killed Jonas and Fan. Unfortunately, Zeus is 30 seconds away from his ultimate. That could have been a kill on the Puck, and Puck might be just randomly phase shifting in order to try to dodge that, but yeah, I think the Puck is going to make it back alive, as the Zeus probably is not going to be willing to throw that ultimate out. Regardless, we have a mech now on the Razor, so Lions a little bit more capable of taking these team fights. Even if they don't have the Aegis, they will have a lot of sustain, and there is a Doom now with a Blink Dagger, so Afterlife is pretty much where he wants to be. Hanamitis Devour working overtime for him, and a Blink Doom on a Puck is pretty much just going to be him dead, and well, Faceless Void is probably a little bit better, though. Faceless Void has been relatively sneaky and hiding around, and Album Sheet haven't really been able to find him. He's now going to be going on the aggressive, however. Has a Chronosphere in tow. Handskin and Sealkin not the most damage, but I think they should have enough to kill off Undershock.
And if they don't kill off Undershock, they surely will go big enough if they're able to actually catch him inside the Chrono. They are going to get it onto Undershock. There's the Ancient Apparition Ice Blast flying through, going to connect onto the Storm Spirit. He didn't stand a chance. Ira's going to be dropping pretty low. The Mask of Madness on, eating a Thunderbolt, not getting the backtracks. Ultimate, it's going to be backtrack. And now the Ignite comes through, but with the level, that's still going to be dropped low. Forced to Grave and TP. Ira trying to make it back to base, canceled by the Thunder Blast. That's going to be the end of Ira's life, although he goes aggressive on a big one before he falls. He should fall. One more smack of Ogre's Club is going to be the end of his life. It's 1-for-1 trade, safe lane for safe lane.
Man, what a freaking luck sack, dodging that ultimate like that, and then getting a whole bunch of backtracks at the end also. As you said, still going to be a relatively even trade until maybe Ink Visitor's in a little bit of trouble. 8 Mother's pretty darn fast, and with the... Oh, actually, Ink Visitor, never mind. Is there any dust or sentries? No. Ink Visitor's going to get a free pass out, and was going to join up with the Viper over towards mid. Razor knows that he's being stalked by Ogre Magi right now. Has TP support coming in. It's only Seal Kid, however. There's an Ice Blast coming in, but Chomi is going to dive this tower, wants to get this destruction. He will not be able to secure it. However, here comes Big Dumb, laying a lot of damage to 8 Mother, forces out the mech. Ink Visitor is not going to get the tower destruction, but he will get a Fire Blast onto 8 Mother instead with the Ignite on top of it. 8 Mother is very tanky right now, especially with that weave. Not doing quite enough damage with the Lightning Bolt. They will have enough. Now to Seal Kid they go. Level 4 Poison Attack and Seal Kid, though he does have almost a maxed out weave at this point. A Multicast 3X is going to tear through him. That's going to be a double kill for the Viper. And Ink Visitor has been getting so many freaking multicasts this game.
He really has, and honestly, that was a really weird move for Lions to take from the get-go. They knew that the Ogre had picked up an Invis rune with no sentries on the ground. I don't think they should have gone for it. Securing the tower deny is fine, but going aggressively onto Chomi is just so difficult. With the maxed out corrosive skin, mechanism, point booster on top of that, even though he hasn't gone for treads, he's still very tanky, and now well on his way towards the Agnum Scepter. Just 450 gold or so shy, and speaking of item pickups, it's not the fastest Orchid, but it is up on Undershock now, and he can feasibly look for solo pickoffs on most of these Lions heroes, in fact.
Yeah, I think maybe the only one he can't outright kill off is the Razor, because mech does go through the Orchid, but everyone else has just got to be so careful. Like, top lane, Handskin might just be dead right now. Undershock is going to zip in, show off his Orchid, and get a kill. Oh, here comes Ira. He will miss the Chronosphere, however. Undershock's so darn slippery, and that's going to be a very nice engagement for Album Sheet. They don't have to worry about that one for a very long time, and hell, even if Undershock had a little bit more mana, he could even conceivably turn around and kill Ira right now. It will be a little bit more difficult than the last one, but they have Thunder God's Wrath as backup. Assuming no bullshit backtracks, then Undershock is capable of getting this kill.
He is capable. He's currently sitting on 600 mana, but he's healing up pretty quickly as far as that's concerned. Going to bump straight into him, and Era does the initiating for him. No ball lightning necessary. He backtracks everything! My god, Era! You are pretty damn lucky, but is he lucky enough? One more auto attack from Undershock's going to end his life. He got 3 backtracks in a row, it felt.
Yeah, it was the ball light, or the Vortex backtrack was there, and then for the everything else it was also there. The bottom lane's fight is going to break out. Afterlife is going to land the Doom onto Jonas Fan, dropping him very low. Will get the kill in the end, maybe denied? No. Ink Visitor's Ignite is going to take that down. 1-for-1 down towards bottom lane. It's, I suppose, fine for both sides, but man, Ira, very, very lucky, but at the end of the day, not lucky enough. With 20%, he dodged like 50% of those skills that were thrown at him. But this is just showing off the power of the Storm Spirit right now. This is an Orchid that is going to get a lot of work done. He could just camp out the top lane, because everyone from Lions, whoever goes up there, if it's not Razor, and it's not, they're just going to be food right now, especially with Ink Visitor helping out. So Undershock is going to be the hero to watch for the next 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, definitely feels that way, especially with no Chronosphere. Killing him off is pretty darn difficult for the enemy team. And now they have some backup from Inkvisitor. They could feasibly go for more than just Storm Spirit versus 1 engagements. Zeus has been constantly looking for D-wards. With his Thunderbolt, he is going to be forced all the way back to base, but we are on track for Bignum to get a pretty fast Aghanim Scepter. Aghanim Scepter on the Ogre, very far away, hasn't even really started working on that. He's the one buying the wards, or maybe some of this inside the Courier is actually his. Inkvisitor does have the point booster, I stand corrected, but Viper picking it up. So Team Aghanim Scepter coming out from Album Sheet.
Lions, in the meantime, they are going to go for a Roshan. This is pretty bold of them. I don't think they've done any dewarding in the area, so maybe they smoked in. I didn't quite catch that, but knowing the enemy team has a Storm Spirit and a Blinking Doom, they're just going to straight up go for the Roshan. It looks like Album Sheet are none the wiser, so it is pretty safe because of the Mask of Madness. Also, Seal Kid weaved up the team beforehand, so Ira wasn't even taking that much damage, so the Roshan is going to be dropping, and it looks like Album Sheet, they're still chilling on the top side. Undershock just waiting for some poor fool to teleport up there, and whoever does go up there is probably going to die, but instead it's going to be a free Aegis going the way towards the Faceless Void, and now he has double chances to get those backtracks, and he's been pretty lucky so far, but it's a nice gain for the Lions. Still feels like they don't really have enough in order to answer the Storm Spirit. At least they need to get the initiation on the Storm, land a Chronosphere on him if they want to deal with him.
Yeah, they definitely do. This Aegis by no means is a one-team fight for Lions, depending on how the initiation goes down. And honestly, I've been impressed by Bignum and his performance on the Zeus game. As a support, it's not a hero that you think of immediately, but Bignum's positioning has been good enough to secure quite a lot of Thunderbolts off into the team fight. And right now, Bignum's pretty much at Zeus's peak, with maxed out passive as well as that Thunderbolt.
Undershock gonna smoke out and go towards the bottom lane. Jonas Van possibly going to be the target, and he has a couple of illusions, so it might be a little bit difficult for Undershock to know which one's the real one until one peels off. He gets silenced, pulled back into a Remnant, and then Undershock is gonna zip back. There's the Thunder God's Wrath to ensure the kill. And in the meantime, mid lane, Hanskin is gonna get hit with the Viper Strike. He's going to take a lot of damage, but he should be fine. That's a lot of mana burnt by the Storm Spirit, but it is going to be totally worth it for that kill. Lions, they really want to go for this push, but this is going to be incredibly dangerous for them. They throw the Weave, which is, I believe, only going to connect onto Bignum. Yes, it does. Certainly nice to have, but there's fortification here. There's an Aghanim Scepter on Chomi. This is certainly defendable by the Album Sheet side. They have to watch out for their positioning, though. Ira looking for a Chronosphere in. Seal Kid's going to drop very low. However, the heals will keep him up alive. The tower is going to be destroyed, and it looks like Album Sheet, they don't quite yet have enough in order to take a fight here. However, Afterlife down towards bottom is going to force someone back. Everyone else on Lions are going to back off after successfully taking the mid lane.
Yeah, even with that successful tower push from Lions, it's still not all great for them. Ira's really the only one that has the farm on their team, and he's going to be well on his way towards his next major item. It feels like he needs to BKB this game, even though you have Doom to stop Chronosphere from him time walking away.
Oh, top.
Oh, we are going to have the jump. They found themselves a Jonas Fan. He's going to fall one way or another. The Soul Burn's going to do him in. They bring in the HF version, but Zeus is here. Zip forward from Undershock. They're going to blow up Handskin. In fact, multicast onto Ape Mother. HF version Ice Blast flies through. That's going to be the end of Inkvisitor's life one way or another. Ape Mother gets graved up, still fighting as best he can. Bignum slowed down after throwing his Thunderbolt into Razor. Stops moving, then they'll kill him off with Chomi. It's a 3-for-1 up towards top.
That was pretty bold of Lions to actually try to turn that one around. Maybe they expected Album Sheet to be nowhere near that top lane, but Undershock is not going to roll without backup, and he had backup in spades. Doombringer still is just playing AFK. He's playing PvE down towards the bottom lane, but honestly, Album Sheet don't even need him at this point. Since Undershock has the Orchid, he can, as promised, go for pretty much any one of these heroes, and it's been Jonas and Fan pretty much every single time. They also still have the Zeus ultimate if they really need it moving forward, but it's just going to be a clean tower destruction after taking a nice set of kills. Now 21-11. And Album Sheet, they're not that far ahead in the gold, but experience and gold, they certainly are increasing in favor of Album Sheet moving forward. And for Lions, they're just not finding any good openings, even after taking that Aegis.
Yeah, they really aren't. D-Ward coming out in the middle river area, and the map vision for Lions just doesn't stick at all. They currently have one ward, that's around the Roshan pit. It's kind of already served its purpose. Even though it still has plenty of duration left, and it's a useful ward to have, it's not useful enough, especially for Ira, who's been spotted out. He's sitting on top of a ward. He's going to be zipped upon, orchided up, they'll pull him back, and Ira is completely screwed. Not enough backtracks to save you here. Even though he survives a little bit longer than I thought he would, he's going to get that Aegis respawn. That might be the end of it. Although with a Doom, it's not. They'll Doom him up. Thunder God's Wrath flies through, and Ira's dropping low, but the mechanism's going to help him a little bit more. Undershock not really that great on mana. The tick damage on air is going to end his life. Heal Grave is going to keep him up for a little bit longer, but not fast enough. With that Aghanim Scepter on the Doom, it's still being refreshed. He is going to fall. No Deny coming out. Level Death onto Steel Kid being healed up again. The sustain's pretty good, but now zipping from Undershock. Doesn't have enough mana to pursue, but the Orchid onto the pocket is going to be the end of his life. And now 8 Mother pulled back. It's going to be a full 5-man wipe. His Album Sheet clean house, and GG well played, called out by Handskin.
And that positioning from Album Sheet was absolutely perfect. They got a complete surround of Lions. Lions had nowhere to go. Their only way of getting out of that situation was going through Viper. And good luck doing that. So it was either we go through Viper and we lose a lot in the process, so we turn around and fight and try to get something, but they also ended up losing a lot in the process. So Album Sheet, they bulldozed their way through Lions pretty convincingly, I would say. A very nice display from Undershock's Storm Spirit, and that's going to bring us to a game 2.
It is. Thanks for watching. We've been here on HeflaTV. I'm Grannis V, and I'll be joined again by Mike Loris. We'll be coming up shortly. Let's see if Lions are going to be able to make a comeback.